To Professor Henry Connery, it has been a long-wanted wish of mine to meet you. But as you know, it's quite difficult for me to travel. So I've sent you these tickets to my concert this Friday. An humble request that you please attend. I hope to see you there. From Calum Reeves. After getting a letter and a free pass from the famous musician and singer, Calum Reeves, to attend his concert, Professor Connery made his way to the BII Theater in LA. Calum Reeves was one of the top-ranking singers across the US, and Professor Connery himself was fond of his work. The performance was spectacular, and Professor Connery had enjoyed the show. But as the concert came to an end, a few of Calum's crew members came to speak with him. Professor Connery, I hope you enjoyed the show. We've been sent by Mr. Reeves with this note. He has invited you to dinner at his beach house. Professor Connery opened up the note. Professor, I would like to speak with you in private, rather than amongst all these people. I would appreciate if you accept my invitation to have dinner. If so, my crew members will arrange for your transport. Alright, then let us go. Professor Connery was a bit surprised by all the hospitality and appreciation he received from the celebrity. It was about 8 p.m. when he was dropped off at the beach house. He could see Calum pacing on the porch waiting for him. Welcome, Professor. It's so nice to finally meet you. Professor Connery shook his hand. I'm glad you're glad, but I wasn't aware a university professor like myself also had fans. Well, there aren't many professors like you. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. Please, come in. Calum politely greeted him inside. Professor, I hope you don't mind, but it'll take some time till dinner will be ready. Why don't we sit in my study? All right. Calum escorted Professor Connery to his study, where they sat down by the fireplace. He poured out a drink and offered him. Thank you, but I don't drink. Now tell me, there must have been a reason behind you wanting to meet me. Yes, Professor, I've wanted to meet you in person for many years now. I've heard a lot about you, but it's not easy for me with all these paparazzis. But since I was touring California, I didn't want to miss this chance. I wanted to show you something. What is it? Before I show you, I want to share a story with you about my struggling days. Before I reached all this fame and success, perhaps you can make something of it. All right. It was almost 10 years ago, at the beginning of my struggling days. At the time, I used to live in Montauk, New York, and I would play my guitar and sing on the beach shore. It was late one evening. The weather had become quite cool and windy. The skies were starting to foreshadow a storm. Just like most of the others, I was wrapping up my things to return home before the rain would start to fall, when a strange, tall man approached me. At first sight, I thought he was a foreigner. He was different. In fact, I hadn't seen anyone like him around there. It was in the middle of the summer, yet he had been all covered from neck to toe. I noticed he had a ring on his finger and had a strange symbol in the middle. He had a strange name. He told me it was Lair. You must be Calum Reeves. Yes, I am. I came here to listen to you sing. My daughter often speaks of you. She's very fond of your music. Indeed, I must compliment your talent as well. Thank you. My daughter's wedding is coming up, and I actually came here to invite you. It's her wish that you sing at her wedding. Sure, I would love to come. Where will it be? On the northeast tip, on the beach shore. Alright, I'll be there. What time will it be at? It will be 2 days later, at 12 a.m. I was a bit intrigued hearing the wedding was being hosted in the middle of the night, but I assumed perhaps it could be due to more privacy. So I arranged whatever clothes I could. I took my guitar and walked towards the northeast. It was really dark. There were no street lamps there, nor any proper roads. I thought I would spot people or some decorations, but it seemed deserted. I couldn't even hear anyone or anything over the crashing waves and the heavy gusts of wind. Nonetheless, I started walking out into the sand when I finally spotted Lara in the distance walking my way. "Mr. Reeves, you've arrived. My daughter has been waiting for you. Let's go." I followed Lara, but it felt like we had been walking for a long time. Luckily, it was a full moon that night, so I was able to make out what was in front of me. "How far is it?" "We're almost there." After a long walk, I suddenly began to spot a light, and soon a gathering of people. There was an altar set up on a stage, and many tables and chairs as if made with shimmering crystal. The decorations were absolutely mesmerizing. Everything seemed to glow. And as we neared, I realized we were suddenly walking amongst a strange mist, smoke like clouds around my feet. Everything seemed much more raised. They had set up some sort of glass tiles on the ground. As I met the people, I started to feel like the odd one out. I was the only one wearing black amongst everyone else who were wearing pure white clothing. But what intrigued me even more was their height. When I first saw Lair, I thought he was tall but didn't give it much attention. But it wasn't just him, but everyone in his family. They were all very tall. Even the bride herself was much taller than me. When she saw me, she immediately got off the stage to greet me. Her name was Rhea, and her fiancé's name was Rad. "Hello, Calum. I'm so happy you came. Meet my fiancé." "Sweetheart, this is Calum. He's an amazing singer." "So this is the man you were speaking of. It's nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to hearing you play." "Please enjoy yourself, Calum. The ceremony will be in a while." Everyone at the wedding was very kind and polite to me. They greeted me with smiles and asked me to join them. But as I walked down the aisles, I couldn't help but notice all the food that was being served. It was food like that I never saw before. It almost seemed out of this world. All the cutlery, the utensils, everything was made of a strange shimmering glass. There were pitchers on every table with a drink of silver water. I couldn't tell if it was because of the reflection of the moonlight, but the water sparkled. There were baskets filled with a strange fruit, or some sort of dessert perhaps. I don't know what it was, but it was as black as coal. When some time had gone by, I myself started to feel hungry. So I went to the serving table to get food, but when I went to pick up a plate, one of Rhea's relatives rushed to stop me. "Stop, stop, this food isn't made for you." "Excuse me?" "The bride has requested special arrangements be made for you. Come with me." The woman kindly took me to a table where she sat me down and bought a tray of food. It wasn't like what the others were having, but it was definitely exotic. But what surprised me was that the bowls and cups were quite small. The woman handed me a bowl that fit in the palm of my hand. "This is a Persian sweet. It's a delicacy where we come from. I'm sure you'll like it." "Thank you. It looks delightful." The bowl had but 2 small spoons of some sort of pudding. I was thinking to myself it might have been tasty, but it wouldn't suffice the hunger. The woman served me a few other dishes, all of which were in small saucers and plates. I began to eat, but something quite strange happened. No matter how much I ate, none of the food seemed to finish. By the time I was absolutely full, all the dishes looked like they hadn't been touched, brimming to the top. After dinner, everyone had gathered for the ceremony. That's when Rhea got up on the altar and addressed me. "Calum, will you please play something for all of us here tonight?" "Absolutely. I actually wrote a song for the bride. This one is for Rhea." I felt a little nervous, but when I looked around, I saw everyone smiling, all attention towards me. As they eagerly waited to listen, they had all been so hospitable and kind, almost as if I were one of their own. So I let out a deep breath and picked up my guitar and began to play. With the last of the note, everyone began to cheer for me. Back in those days, I had never experienced that much appreciation from any crowd, the way Ria and her family applauded for me. "That was wonderful. You have a very nice voice. You're an amazing musician." After my performance, everyone turned to look at the bride and groom join each other at the altar again. Rad looked at Ria and said, "Ria, you wanted a gift from me for our wedding. You wanted me to write your name in the heavens." I watched with excitement to see what he would give her, perhaps fireworks. But all of a sudden, the wind started to pick up and rain began to pour. I was a bit disappointed. Would the weather spoil the wedding? But strange as it was, the rain poured heavily on the beach shore, but not on me, not on us. It was as if we were sitting in a glass dome. Wow, what arrangements! A glass canopy? I turned to look at the bride and groom again. Rad stepped back and raised his hands. "Tonight, I shall give you your gift." For a minute I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. When I saw him become a little taller. But I soon realized this was no trick or illusion, it was happening. Rad was becoming taller, broader, and bigger, until he reached the skies, hundreds of feet taller than the rest of us, who were just mere specks in the sand. He clapped his hands together as his voice boomed in the air. "Ria!" Deafened by the sound and petrified to my core, I dropped my guitar and ran down the shore away from the gathering, afraid for my life. I didn't have the courage to look back, but I knew they were all watching me. I kept running until I couldn't bear the anxiety, and I fell unconscious. When I woke up the next morning, I found myself stranded in the middle of the beach at the northeast point. There was no one there, no traces of any wedding. I was still so frightened by what I experienced the night before, I got up and hurried home. It took hours to get back by foot. And when I reached home, I was exhausted. I lay in bed all day trying to make sense of what I saw, but I couldn't think of any other explanation but that it was something out of this world. Or could it have been just a dream? Whatever it was, I was just relieved to be in the safety of my home again. But later that evening, right after the sun had set and the skies became pitch dark again, I heard a sudden knock on my door. I looked through the window, but couldn't spot anyone. But I heard that knock again. When I opened the door, I found my guitar had been left at the porch. But it had turned to complete gold. On it was a small note from Lair. "This is a reward for your excellent performance. Our family appreciated that you came to my daughter's wedding." Caleb got up and walked to one of the showcases and brought out the golden guitar and the small note. "This is that guitar. Back in those days, I was tempted to sell it, but eventually I didn't. There was something about it that made me want to hold on to it. And surprisingly, just weeks after I got this, I got a big opportunity from a producer, and I only progressed in my career until I became what I am today." Seeing the golden guitar, Professor Connery stretched out his hand and showed Caleb a ring of his own. That ring with the strange symbol. Was it like this? Caleb widened his eyes in shock. "Yes, Professor, this is the one." "Then if that's the case, this isn't a symbol, but an Arabic letter. Hamza. And those strange names you spoke of, they weren't Ler, Ria, and Rad. They were Arabic names. Leher, meaning sea. Riha, meaning wind. And Rod, meaning thunder. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.